Imagine this. The sun sinks behind a wall of ice, and night devours the land. A small group of humans huddles together in total darkness. No fire, no warmth, no light to keep the predators away. Their breath fogs in the freezing air, eyes wide as unseen growls echo from the black void. In a world without firelight, night isn't peaceful, it's a predator. For our ancestors, darkness meant danger. And before humans learned to command fire, every sunset was a reminder, you were never truly safe. But how did they survive those nights? What did life look like before the glow of flame pushed back the shadows? Picture it, a vast ice age plain, silent except for the wind and the distant call of something hunting. The sun has vanished behind the horizon, and suddenly, the world is swallowed whole by darkness. No glow from a village, no stars bright enough to comfort, only blackness so complete you can't see your own hands. For early humans, this wasn't poetic. It was terrifying. Night meant exposure. It meant predators moving unseen, saber-toothed cats, cave lions, wolves, and even rival tribes. Without fire, humans had no way to illuminate danger or defend themselves with light. Their only tools were instincts, crude weapons, and each other. They huddled together under animal hides or inside caves, backs pressed tight, straining to hear every sound. The rustle of grass might mean wind or death. Even the bravest among them learned a kind of reverent fear for the night. In that endless darkness, time stretched strangely. Hours could feel like days. Sleep was shallow, broken, restless. Some took turns watching, while others drifted in and out of uneasy dreams. For them, surviving until dawn wasn't routine, it was a triumph. Darkness wasn't just physical, it was psychological. It shaped how early humans thought, feared, and believed. Before firelight, the unknown ruled their world, and the unknown had teeth. Without fire, humans were not the kings of their world, they were prey. Night belonged to the hunters of the dark. Big cats could see perfectly, humans could not. Eyes adjusted, but never enough. A moving shadow, a flicker in the brush, it could end everything. To survive, they developed instinctive fear responses, the sudden alertness at a sound, the chill down the spine when you sense eyes watching. Those reflexes are still in us today, echoes from the age when darkness meant death. Groups adapted. They stayed near cliffs, caves, or dense trees for protection. Some smeared their skin with ash or mud to mask scent. Others built makeshift barriers from branches or bones. Still, the night always pressed in, vast, cold, unrelenting. And yet, that fear served a purpose. It kept them alive. Fear was evolution's teacher. It made them alert, cautious, ready. Over generations, humans learned to read the night, to tell the difference between harmless noises and real danger. Their senses sharpened, their awareness deepened. In a world without light, survival wasn't about dominance, it was about understanding. The predators ruled the darkness, but slowly, humans learned to endure it. In that fear, imagination found fertile ground. What you can't see, you explain, and so began some of humanity's first stories. The darkness wasn't just empty, it was alive. It hid spirits, monsters, and forces beyond comprehension. Every growl became a demon, every shadow a ghost. Around those early camps, people whispered to calm their children, or themselves. Maybe the rustling wasn't danger, but a guardian spirit passing by. Maybe the stars were ancestors watching from above. From fear, faith was born, the need to make meaning out of terror. Night shaped early culture just as much as it shaped evolution. The fear of dark gave rise to storytelling, ritual, and belief, things that still define us. And deep down, those stories weren't just about mystery. They were about hope, the hope that one day, something would push the darkness back for good. That something would be fire. But before we get to that miracle, we need to understand what survival looked like in a world that was frozen, wild, and merciless, a world where even the strongest could freeze or starve without a spark. Imagine waking up to air so cold it burns your lungs. Frost clings to your hair, your breath clouds in front of your face, and your body trembles uncontrollably. There's no fire to warm your hands, no cooked food waiting, only the endless white silence of the Ice Age. Before humans tamed fire, survival was a brutal dance between hunger and cold. Every step was a test. Shelter wasn't comfort, it was life itself. They used animal hides, bones, and earth to build crude barriers against the wind. But nothing truly kept the cold out. The human body is not built for freezing temperatures. Without warmth, fingers stiffen, muscles weaken, and judgment fades. The line between life and death was often just a few degrees. To stay alive, they had to move constantly, hunting, scavenging, migrating with the herds. They learned to rest in shifts, always alert to predators and frost. They huddled close for warmth, sharing body heat, whispering quiet reassurance in the dark. Every breath of that world was a reminder. Nature didn't care whether they lived or died. And yet, they endured, not through comfort, but through willpower. Survival wasn't guaranteed, but they refused to give up. It was the age of endurance, and only the relentless survived. Without fire, food was both a prize and a punishment. Meat couldn't be cooked, it had to be eaten raw. Warm blood and flesh were the only sources of energy in the frozen world. The taste wasn't pleasant. It was primal, metallic, and heavy, but it kept them alive. Hunger changed them. It stripped away comfort, leaving only instinct. They learned to eat what others wouldn't: marrow sucked from bones, insects dug from dirt, roots chewed raw. Nothing was wasted. Some discoveries came by accident. Fermented meat that didn't spoil as fast, berries that gave energy, or marrow that boosted strength. Their knowledge of survival wasn't science, it was memory, passed through generations, written in experience and scars. And when food was scarce, they shared what they had. Not out of generosity, but necessity. In those times, unity meant life. One hunter's kill was the tribe's salvation. One lost life could doom them all. It was a world without comfort, but not without courage. Their hunger wasn't just for food, it was for survival, for tomorrow, for the next sunrise. There were nights when hope itself froze. Blizzards would sweep across the plains, burying everything. Animals vanished. The cold cut deeper than any blade. Some tribes vanished entirely, their stories lost to snow and silence. And yet, others endured, not because they were the strongest, but because they adapted. They learned to think, to plan, to endure together. Every hardship taught a lesson. Stay close, move wisely, trust the group. In those darkest times, humans began to discover something deeper than instinct: resilience. The kind of strength that isn't physical, but mental. Even when the body broke, the will refused to. That was the spark before the flame, the mental fire that came before the physical one. The belief that there must be a way. And soon there would be. Because one day, through accident or brilliance, humans would create something that changed everything. A light against the darkness, a weapon against the cold. That moment would ignite not just warmth, but civilization itself. Imagine a single spark flickering in the darkness, fragile, uncertain, but alive. For thousands of generations, our ancestors had lived in fear of fire, watching it consume forests and flash across the sky as lightning. But one day, someone didn't run. They watched. Maybe it began with a storm. A bolt struck a tree, and flames roared to life. Most fled, but a few stayed behind, curious, cautious, and desperate. They saw the fire devourer would yet stay in one place. They felt its heat, its danger, and its power. At first, they didn't create fire, they stole it. They carried burning branches from natural fires, protecting the embers like treasure. Families gathered around small flames, learning how to feed it: dry grass, bark, bones. It was a living thing, demanding care. That first controlled fire was more than warmth. It was a moment that separated humanity from the rest of nature. The fear of darkness began to fade. Predators hesitated at the edges of light. For the first time, night wasn't just survival, it was safety. The glow of that first fire wasn't just physical. It was symbolic, the birth of human control over nature, the first step toward civilization. With fire came transformation. Food that was once dangerous became safe. Meat roasted over flames broke down fibers, making it easier to chew and digest. For the first time, meals brought comfort instead of risk. Cooked food meant more energy, stronger bodies, and longer lives. Fire also changed the way humans lived together. Tribes gathered around flames not only for warmth but for connection. They shared stories, laughter, and lessons. a kind of communication that didn't exist in the darkness before. The fire became the heart of the community, both literally and spiritually. It also extended their world. Nights grew longer, but no longer deadly. The glow of campfires became a beacon across the tundra, a sign of human life against an indifferent wilderness. Even tools evolved. Fire-hardened wooden spears helped shape stones and prepared hides for clothing. It was technology in its purest form, simple, powerful, essential. Yet, fire was more than survival. It was meaning. It became ritual, symbol, and memory, the light that connected generations. Around those flames, humans became storytellers, dreamers, and thinkers. Fire didn't just change what humans did. It changed who they were. From that moment onward, humanity's destiny shifted forever. The fire allowed migration into colder lands, where no human could have survived before. It forged communities, strengthened bonds, and gave time, precious hours after sunset, to plan, create, and imagine. And imagination was everything. With fire came reflection, literally and figuratively. The flicker of flame in the eyes of early humans mirrored something new: self-awareness. They began to see themselves not just as survivors, but as beings who could shape their world. From those glowing embers came the first art, handprints on cave walls, stories told in shadows, and the birth of belief. Fire became sacred, a gift from nature or the gods. It was protected, feared, and worshipped. Every modern comfort, from technology to culture, can trace its roots back to that one spark. Fire was our first invention, our first tool of transformation, our first symbol of power. The Ice Age was still merciless, but humanity was no longer helpless. They had light, and with it, a future. That single, fragile flame on a cold night was more than survival. It was the birth of humanity's greatest strength, the power to create, to adapt, and to dream beyond the darkness.